In this session, we are going to determine whether the concentration of carbon dioxide in the surrounding affects photosynthesis rate. We will start by watching a short video, which is a demonstration of an experiment done on a green plant to prove that carbon dioxide is essential for photosynthesis.
To demonstrate that carbon dioxide is needed for photosynthesis. Procedure: destarch the leaves of potted plant by placing it in dark for about 72 hours. After 72 hours, select 2 leaves of approximately the same size attached to the plant. Insert 1 leaf in a conical flask containing 0.4 microns sodium hydroxide. It will remove the carbon dioxide. A cotton wool plug soaked in lime water will prevent carbon dioxide from entering the flask. Set up the second leaf in the same way as the experimental leaf, but this time use water instead of the sodium hydroxide. Plug the flask with cotton wool soaked in water. Keep the setup in sunlight for a few hours. After a few hours, detach both the leaves and dip in boiling water for a minute. Now boil them in alcohol over a water bath till they decolorize. Wash them in water. Then test with iodine. Observation: the experimental leaf remains unchanged, that is, decolorized, while the control leaf becomes blue-black, showing the positive test with iodine. Inference and conclusion: the experimental leaf showed negative test with the iodine because in the absence of carbon dioxide, no photosynthesis took place. Hence, no starch is formed. While the control leaf showed positive test with iodine because due to the presence of carbon dioxide, starch was formed. It proves that carbon dioxide is a necessary factor for photosynthesis.
Before we continue, we are going to solve an application exercise. It is given that 2 plants are grown in the presence of sunlight, provided with water and minerals, such that plant 1 is grown in the presence of sodium hydroxide, which is a chemical substance that absorbs carbon dioxide from the surrounding, so this plant is deprived of carbon dioxide. And plant 2 is grown in the presence of water that has no effect on the carbon dioxide amount, so we can say that this plant is our control plant, kept in conditions that favors photosynthesis. The results are shown in the figure as follows. Upon applying iodine test on 1 leaf taken from each plant, the results show that starch is not present in the leaves of the first plant, but it is present in the control plant. First question, we have to interpret the results. Second question, we have to give a conclusion, based on the obtained experimental results. Before we answer any question, we have to think. What is the posed problem in this case? What is the hypothesis that we are trying to see if it is valid or not? What is the variable factor, which is the difference in conditions, between plant 1 and plant 2? So, we answer ourselves. The posed problem. Is carbon dioxide essential for photosynthesis to occur? The hypothesis. Carbon dioxide is an essential factor for photosynthesis. The variable factor is the carbon dioxide, its presence and absence. Of course, the difference in this condition is responsible for the difference in the result between the experimental setup and the control. Now, we answer the previous questions. Interpretation and conclusion. Of course, to interpret, we should start by analyzing the results, to see what do they prove. The analysis should include comparison between the experimental setup and the control. We should mention the results as well as the variable factor, which had a direct effect on these results. In this case, the absence of carbon dioxide resulted in the absence of starch, while, in the presence of carbon dioxide, starch was synthesized in the plant. So, the answer would be: starch was not detected in the leaves of plant 1, placed in the absence of carbon dioxide due to its absorption by sodium hydroxide, while starch was detected in the leaves of plant 2, placed in the presence of carbon dioxide. Thinking about such results will lead you to know the relation between the variable factor, which is the carbon dioxide, and the result, which is in this case, starch synthesis. So, this leads to a significance, which is: carbon dioxide is indispensable for starch synthesis in plants. Now, what can we conclude concerning the relation between carbon dioxide and photosynthesis? If we think about it, the plant was not able to synthesize starch in the absence of carbon dioxide because it was not able to undergo photosynthesis. So, now we know that carbon dioxide is indispensable for photosynthesis, that is, it is an essential factor for photosynthesis to occur. Now, our next question would be: what is the effect of carbon dioxide concentration on photosynthesis rate? To find the answer, we will look at the following experiment results. This graph represents the variation of the volume of oxygen, produced by an Elodea twig of an aquatic plant placed in light, as a function of the concentration of carbon dioxide present in water. So, what we have done is the following. First, we placed this plant in the absence of carbon dioxide, that is at carbon dioxide concentration equal to 0, and then, we placed the same plant in the presence of carbon dioxide, but, we changed the carbon dioxide concentrations. For example, we first placed it at a concentration of 0.03%, 0.05%, 0.1%, etc. And in each case, we measured the volume of oxygen released by this plant. The results are represented in the form of a curve, and we need to interpret the results, that is to find the relation between carbon dioxide concentration and the release of oxygen. Moreover, we have to conclude the effect of carbon dioxide concentration on photosynthesis rate. But before answering, we should think about certain points. First, since the aim of this experiment is to find out the effect of carbon dioxide concentration, therefore, the variable factor in this case would be carbon dioxide. Actually, the variable factor is the absence and the presence of carbon dioxide, as well as the different concentration of this gas. Moreover, any change in the volume of oxygen released would be due to the concentration of carbon dioxide used. Now let us start with the analysis. If you look at the curve, the main important points and phases that should be taken into consideration. Of course, the first point, which represents the absence of carbon dioxide. And then, this increasing phase representing the increase in the volume of oxygen, as the carbon dioxide increases. And finally, the last phase, which is the plateau phase, representing the release of oxygen in constant volume, when the carbon dioxide concentration increases beyond 0.3%. Thinking about such results, will lead you to know the relation between the variable factor and the result, meaning, the relation between the carbon dioxide concentration and the volume of oxygen released. So, this leads to a significance, which is carbon dioxide is essential for the oxygen production by the plant, and higher carbon dioxide concentration enhances the oxygen production rate up to a maximum limit. Concerning the conclusion, it should be an answer to the posed problem, that is the importance of carbon dioxide, as well as the relation between carbon dioxide concentration and photosynthesis. And in this experiment, it was proven that carbon dioxide is an essential factor. Moreover, higher carbon dioxide concentration enhances photosynthesis rate, but this enhancement is only up to a certain limit. So, our answer would be, for the first question, in the absence of carbon dioxide, oxygen is not released. This sentence represents the first point of the curve at the point 00. Then we say, however, a comparative connector indicating a change in the results, and we continue analyzing this increasing phase. So, in the presence of carbon dioxide, and as the carbon dioxide concentration increases to 0.3%, the volume of oxygen released increases to its maximum. Then, we use another comparative connector to show a change in phase, from increasing to constant. So we write, whereas the volume of released oxygen remains constant with a further increase in carbon dioxide. This implies, carbon dioxide is essential for the oxygen production by the plant, and higher carbon dioxide concentration enhances the oxygen production rate, up to a maximum limit. For the second question, carbon dioxide is indispensable for photosynthesis, and higher carbon dioxide concentration enhances photosynthesis rate, up to a certain maximum limit. To summarize, in general, photosynthesis is a biological process that occurs in chlorophylltic cells of plants. It involves the use of inorganic substances, which are carbon dioxide and water, as well as the energy from the sunlight, in order to synthesize glucose, an organic substance, which is mainly stored in the form of starch. This process releases oxygen gas. You can see the chemical equation of photosynthesis, written using either molecular formulas or words. CO2 plus H2O plus energy, from light, gives C6H12O6 plus O2. Please note that during photosynthesis, the light energy is converted into chemical energy in the form of glucose. Most of the synthesized glucose is transformed into starch. We have reached the end of our session. And, now you should be able to list the main factors required for photosynthesis. Chlorophyll, light, carbon dioxide, water and minerals. Thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.